This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Sign up at patreon.com/mattneff to get your name in the thank you credits, along with early access to every FUDW. Check out the link in the description to become an FUDW superfan. And I say, hey! Arthur is doing his homework when he catches DW coloring in his schoolbook on animals, which I guess in this world would be labeled as anatomy. Arthur says he likes to imagine how great life would be without DW. Welcome to the club. He says DW would be way more useful as a jackass or a superhero. But trust me, the last thing you want to do is give this brat superpowers. Arthur is bored. Instead of just watching TV like any other bored child, his mom suggests playing with DW. DW promises not to be annoying in the most annoying way possible. Arthur suggests they try baseball, but DW refuses to play without her doll. Arthur calls it quits, claiming DW is a baby, which is an insult to babies everywhere. Arthur decides to watch Bionic Bunny, but DW wants to watch Mary Moo Cow so she can learn about the color green, even though most infants have a basic understanding of colors after 18 months. Mrs. Reed sides with DW since she had the remote first.
That's tough. That's fair.
DW complains that Arthur never wants to play with her. Arthur says it's because she's boring, and also a bitch. DW reasons that if she acts more like Arthur, he'll want to spend more time with her. DW starts copying everything Arthur does, even watching the shows he likes. Ironically, Arthur actually takes a liking to DW, who gets more quality time with her brother like she said she wanted. The two put their differences aside and begin a lifelong friendship free of conflict. DW starts dressing like Arthur, copies his mannerisms, and even follows him to the boys' bathroom. What the hell? Things get worse as DW starts stalking Arthur and his friends everywhere they go, including the Sugar Bowl.
You're a henway.
What's a henway?
About 5 pounds.
Pretty sure that counts as a race joke. DW attempts to sit with Arthur's friends when a waiter kindly offers her a baby seat. DW responds by yelling in her face, like a baby. Arthur grows more annoyed as even Binky can't tell the two apart. Why couldn't she be the version of Arthur Binky beat up? Arthur tells his parents DW is ruining his life. It turns out he didn't get invited to his friend's pool party because of her, which, all joking aside, genuinely sucks. Instead of talking to DW about her annoying behavior, the Reed parents push that shit onto Arthur.
Why can't you?
This is between the two of you.
Fuck all the way off. The next day, the Tibbletaints invite DW over to watch VeggieTales. DW says that cartoon is only for babies, which is a bold-faced lie.
I'm playing soccer with Arthur. Sounds boring.
Right, because the one thing everyone knows about soccer is how boring it is. Arthur has reached his breaking point and tells DW to stop copying him. DW points out she only started copying him after he called her a boring baby. Arthur recognizes his mistake and apologizes for hurting her feelings, promising to spend more time with her in the future. But just when it seems like we might get a happy ending, DW reveals her true intentions.
And Mom said I can watch Mary Moo Cow every day for as many days as you watched Bionic Bunny.
Huh. So I guess all that stuff about wanting to spend more time with her brother was a big old crock of shit. Arthur is left to wallow in his own defeat, once again bested by the tyrannical toddler. Let's review. DW copied everything her brother did to trick him into spending more time with her. Her scheme included getting her mom to buy her a whole new wardrobe, which she immediately discarded after she succeeded. She stalked Arthur everywhere he went, refusing to give him any privacy. She ostracized Arthur from his friends after yelling at a waiter who was only doing her job. When Arthur begged his parents to intervene, they refused to do jack shit. And even after Arthur apologized for hurting DW's feelings, it turns out she only did it so she could get more TV time for herself. Thankfully, this is the only time we see DW try to copy her brother, because while imitation might be the most sincere form of flattery, copying someone else's style just makes you look like an unoriginal hack. DW is trash. DW is trash. And I say, hey! DW's preschool class goes to the aquarium to look at all the mammals who aren't fortunate enough to be people in this world. Miss Morgan takes the girls to the bathroom, God bless her, where DW is one of the few kids actively trying to destroy the place. The kids visit the Hall of Sea Monsters, where, unsurprisingly, DW is the biggest monster in the room. DW sees an octopus for the first time and instantly craps her pants. She lies to her family about fighting off the octopus with her bare hands. Arthur calls BS. He scares her with a fake octopus, which is obviously a rubber spider. Wait, are octopi spiders of the ocean? Nope, there's actual ocean spiders. Someone needs to make an underwater Spider-Man spin-off now.
Get on with it!
Arthur gets grounded. DW dreams about Arthur getting eaten by an octopus, much to her violent delight. She spends the night in her parents' bed, preventing them from spawning another mistake. The next day, Arthur accidentally breaks the AC, and DW cheers with glee in anticipation of his punishment. However, the Reeds decide to take the family to the lake to beat the heat. DW refuses to go, even after Arthur correctly points out that octopi don't live near lakes. Instead of hiring a babysitter or dropping DW off at Grandma Thora's house, the Reed parents drag DW to the lake kicking and screaming. DW refuses to calm down, even making her baby sister cry. Buster tries to go into the water without his swim cap until DW rats him out to the lifeguard. Arthur and friends are having fun on the raft while DW stays in her towel fort, giving herself heat stroke. Instead of taking her home, Mrs. Reed begs Arthur to play with DW for 10 minutes. DW forces Arthur and Buster to rescue her from her sandcastle, while getting laughed at by all the girls at the lake. 10 minutes later, Arthur is back in the water while DW begs her dad to force Arthur to play with her. Arthur and friends are playing keep-away with Buster's swim cap, pretending it's a ravenous octopus. Because DW doesn't recognize obvious sarcasm, she assumes her brother is actually getting attacked and tries to warn her dad. Mr. Reed tells her to fuck off. DW resorts to tattling to the lifeguard and ruins the vibe for everyone. The lifeguard tells the group they shouldn't pretend to scream for help, which is honestly valid beach etiquette. DW spends the rest of the day forcing Arthur to give her horsey rides. Sea-horsey rides. Arthur collapses in exhaustion as Mrs. Reed returns from God knows where to take them all home. The day comes to an end as DW begs her mom to bring her back to the beach tomorrow, before promptly passing out.
You're not still scared of octopuses, are you? Octopuses live in oceans, not lakes.
I don't see any octopuses.
Honey, there are no octopuses on this beach.
There aren't any octopuses here.
And she said that octopuses don't like lakes.
That's my little octopusy.
Let's review. DW lost her mind when she discovered octopi and made it everyone else's problem. She ruined her family's trip to the lake with her non-stop screaming and crying. She forced her brother to play with her, embarrassing him in front of everyone and making the lake less fun for his friends. When Arthur tried to have fun without her, she snitched on them to the lifeguard, getting him in trouble, and forced him to be her bitch boy for the rest of the day. F-U-D-W. Arthur recalls the time DW beat him at checkers and bragged about it for an entire year. He claims that's not as annoying as Crazy Bus, an upbeat song written in A major that's played non-stop by A minor. It's the crack of dawn and DW is playing Crazy Bus for the 532nd time that week. And considering the song is a minute and a half long, that means she's been listening to the same song for a combined 13 hours and 18 minutes. Good God. DW is strutting around the house with her CD player at full volume, having apparently broken the headphones her brother gave her. Arthur tries playing outside to escape the noise, only to find DW and the Tibble tumors screeching at full volume. Instead of telling their daughter to turn down the music, the Reed parents decide to ignore her. The Reed parents continue to fuel DW's manic obsession by taking the whole family to Crazy Bus Live. Arthur's worried he'll get recognized and disguises himself as an elephant, which may or may not be a hate crime. Arthur is surprised to see Buster at the show, because there's nothing more absurd than something made for kids appealing to a mass audience. Arthur reaches his breaking point and threatens to destroy DW's CD. DW tattles to her parents, getting her brother grounded. The music has finally stopped, only to be immediately replaced with DW's high-pitched shrills. Her Crazy Bus CD is missing. Dun dun dun. Through second nature, DW blames Arthur.
Yeah, like you didn't take my snowball out of the freezer. Let's not start that again.
Later that week, the Reed parents go to their high school reunion, leaving Catherine Frensky in charge. The second her parents are out of the house, DW begins terrorizing her brother. She mistakes his CD-ROM game for her Crazy Bus CD and nearly scratches it to pieces. DW refuses to let Arthur out of her sight and tears his room apart trying to find her CD. Instead of sending the kids to their rooms, Catherine has the brilliant idea of drawing a line down the middle of the house, which has worked great in every other show ever made. Catherine's plan instantly falls apart when the kids get into a tug-of-war over Arthur's jacket, which results in Arthur getting yeeted into the closet. Surprise, surprise, it turns out the Reed parents took the CD by mistake, even though there's no way they could have accidentally swapped CDs without DW noticing. DW pretends to take the moral high ground while never apologizing to Arthur for falsely accusing him. In a cruel twist of fate, DW doesn't even want the CD anymore. Her focus shifts to her new VHS copy of Crazy Bus the movie, which seems like it's meant to be enjoyed by people who are high as a plane or balloony. Arthur screams in terror as the hellish cycle repeats itself. God help him when the movie comes out on streaming. Let's review. DW became obsessed with an inanimate object, driving her brother insane. When the object went missing, she instantly blamed Arthur and destroyed his room trying to find it. She wasted all her time stalking and harassing her brother when it ended up being her father's fault the thing went missing in the first place. And even after the issue was resolved, she replaced her obsession with something even more obnoxious, ensuring her family never gets a moment's peace. F.U. DW. Arthur says the only two people more annoying than DW are the Tibblewits. The terrible twosome excel at giving DW an inferiority complex the size of Canadian Oklahoma. The Tibbletumers set up a deadly tiger trap in their front yard. Makes you wonder what happened to their parents. They're disappointed when Principal Haney falls into the trap instead. So wait, tigers are animals, but bears are people? How does this world work?
It's best not to think about it.
Mrs. Reed volunteers to watch over the Tibbletaints while their grandma is out, by which I mean she volunteers DW to watch over them. DW tries to get the Tibbletwats to play peacefully, only to have them destroy her favorite coloring book. Doesn't feel so good when it happens to you, does it? DW begs Arthur to help her watch over the Tibble Tyrants, since he's babysat for them before.
Yeah, I told him a story.
Mrs. Reed doesn't do a goddamn thing while her house is torn to shreds. DW offers to read them a story. The Tibbletools call BS, as even they don't know how to read yet.
No way, no way, no way, no way!
The fuck? The Tibble Toilets call her bluff and ask her to read a picture book for them, cause no 4-year-old could possibly recite Little Red Riding Hood from memory. DW digs herself into a deeper hole by picking a book with no pictures, which I think we can all agree are the dumbest kinds of books. She starts her story in the middle of the book, where all stories start. DW spends the next hour verbally stroking her own ego by rewriting her own personal history, to make herself the hero of every terrible situation she's brought upon herself. Her thinly veiled self-insert goes on an adventure where she must rescue her Snowball from her evil brother, who's also a Transformer, which is somehow a bad thing? DW paints herself as the greatest thing that happened to humanity since sliced fucking Wonder Bread.
She can ride a no-wheeler!
So, a boat? Her story goes further off the rails as BW steals her aunt's wedding ring to cure her parents' spinach poisoning. Unfortunately, she first needs to find her missing blankie in the Maze Mart to activate the ring's power. Joe Fallon, what were you smoking when you wrote this episode? BW manages to escape the maze after finding her Snowball. Whoop-de-fucking-do. She also finds her blankie inside Crazy Bus, even though it's a completely different color. Surprise, surprise, it turns out to be a trap set by Arthur and Buster. Luckily, Spanky the Eagle shows up to kick ass and take names. America, fuck yeah! Coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah! Arthur is defeated thanks to his own self-destruct button and Spanky dies like a bitch. BW gives Spanky a proper send-off with the help of President Hank Hill.
Spanky was the bravest, boldest, best bird. America, fuck yeah.
The Tibbleturds are moved to tears as their grandma returns from the store. They decide to take the book with them so their grandma can finish reading it. When Arthur points out DW's ruse will be exposed, she admits she doesn't care as she only wanted to be superior for one afternoon. Short-term games for a pint-sized pain. Lucky for DW, the dynamic dimwits assume the book magically changed on its own, proving the only ones dumber than DW are the Look, there's only so many words that start with T. Let's review. DW became hell-bent on proving she was better than the Tibble twins, despite her inability to read, ride a bike, or tell time. When the Tibbles destroyed their own yard trying to kill someone, DW dreaded the idea of having to spend a whole hour with them indoors. The role of babysitter was foisted upon her by her mother, which she was woefully unprepared for. She lost her mind after only a few minutes because no one should ever be forced to spend time with children. She lied about being able to read to one-up her supposed friends, and made up a whole story which only served to stroke her ego. When Arthur pointed out she couldn't keep up the ruse forever, DW admitted she only cared about making herself look good in the moment. And as bad as the Tibbles might be, keep in mind their bad behavior is a partial byproduct of being raised by a single grandparent, who is clearly an overwhelmed pushover. What's DW's excuse? F you, DW. DW's preschool class is making paper bag masks, which I can only assume are in preparation for the upcoming ritual sacrifice. Miss Morgan tells them they will soon have their first fire drill, triggering DW's pyromania. DW's Inferno boner quickly deflates when she learns what a fire drill actually is. Miss Morgan leads the class through a series of exercises in preparation for the drill. For example, if you catch fire, your first thought should be stop, drop, and roll, instead of, holy shit, I'm on fire. DW is now scared of fire, and, as usual, makes it everyone else's problem. She sets off the smoke alarms in her house in the middle of the night. She also sets off Arthur's BS alarm when she pretends to be sick the next morning. Being the mother of the year, Mrs. Reed allows DW to stay home from school. When Arthur tries to pull the same stunt, Mrs. Reed tells him tough shit. Turns out, she wasted the whole day for nothing as the Tibbletwerps confirm the fire drill isn't for several more days. Mrs. Reed finally sees through her daughter's lies and forces DW to go to school the next day. She tells DW fire drills are important, which is a sentence she'll come to regret later in the episode.
There she goes, the best mother I ever had.
That's sad, but not for the reason you think. DW refuses to go inside, while Miss Morgan explains how a wet towel can be used to protect yourself from flames. Quick question, where the hell am I supposed to get a wet towel if the building is on fire? The Reed parents discuss how to help DW get over her fear of fire, while Mr. Reed eats a cookie straight out of the oven, like a masochist. The Reeds decide to make DW the fire warden of the house, because giving a person jurisdiction over something they're confused and afraid about is always the best course of action. DW runs her family ragged with her unending fire drills. She even goes as far as wearing her brother's used bath towel as a protective cover. Gross! Arthur tries to comfort his sister by talking about his first fire drill, only to be coldly rebuffed by the fascist 4-year-old. The next day at preschool, DW spends the whole time watching the clock.
Boy, I sure wish I could tell time.
I think I just found the best joke in the whole show. The fire alarm goes off and the Tibble trash instantly lose their shit. Ironically, DW keeps a level head and helps lead her class outside. The fire drill is over and DW is pissed off it wasn't more dangerous. She interrupts Tommy's panic attack to demand a more dangerous drill. Though to be honest, if this episode was made today, it would probably be about a school shooter drill.
That's not funny. That's super sad.
When DW gets home, she gaslights her family by claiming the fire drill was never a big deal to begin with, proving to be a massive waste of time and effort on her family's behalf. Let's review. DW lost her goddamn mind when she thought her preschool might spontaneously burst into flames. She went as far as pretending to be sick and even refused to go inside the building just to avoid the drill. She set off all the fire alarms in the house in the middle of the night, with no concern for her family's rest or well-being. When the Reeds tried to help her get over her fears, DW rewarded their sympathy with non-stop fire drills and blatant apathy. And even after she successfully navigated her first fire drill, she played it off as underwhelming and demanded a challenge that might actually put her peers in danger. F you, DW. Arthur says DW refuses to have fun with her family unless she gets to pick the activity. The Reed family is planning their next big trip when Arthur suggests they go to Washington, D.C.
That's a capital idea.
For some reason, that joke hits differently now. DW wants to go to Ponyland, which looks like Dollywood on acid. Arthur points out DW got to pick their last vacation to a Santa-themed tourist trap.
How can you share a sundae with Santa if you don't bring a sundae to Santa?
The Reed parents should have done the bare minimum research on this place before driving all the way there. DW is outvoted and makes it abundantly clear she is not happy about it.
I don't care about the president. I care about ponies.
I'll give her this. At least she has her priorities in order. DW reluctantly agrees to go on the trip, like she has a choice, after her dad agrees to let her pick the next vacation. That doesn't stop her from trying to guilt trip him into buying her a pony. DW spends the entire car ride being passive-aggressive as fuck by pointing out every single pony she sees. Arthur fantasizes about meeting the president and becoming best friends. Who cares? DW spends the whole trip bitching and moaning about the lack of ponies and how boring everything is. And as someone who's been guilty of being that guy on a vacation, I assure you whining about every little inconvenience just further incentivizes your family to leave you behind. The Reed family decides to take a tour of the White House. DW says fuck that, sneaks off on her own, and ends up getting locked out of the tour. DW is now missing, and the White House is on full lockdown. Arthur worries what might happen if DW runs into the president.
It is now illegal not to own a pony, and the national anthem has been changed to Crazy Bus.
Nowadays, this would be the most realistic part of the episode. The Reed parents ask security to help them find DW.
That's it? Initials? You didn't give the kid a whole name?
Best character ever. DW bumps into the president and the two bond over their love of horses. DW is reunited with her family before she can do any real damage to democracy. The president invites the Reed family to dinner and Arthur spends the whole time kissing his ass. On the ride home, DW says she wants to be president when she grows up, which honestly may or may not be an improvement over the current situation. Let's review. DW chewed out her family when they wouldn't let her pick their family vacation. She spent the whole trip complaining about every little thing, wearing down her family's nerves. She snuck off during the middle of a tour, sending the White House into full lockdown. It was only when she finally got to see something pony-related that she stopped being a passive-aggressive prick. And even after everything worked out in her favor, she vowed to become the next president, threatening to reshape the country in her own image. God help us all. F you, DW. So my family did a White House tour back in 2010, and my mom was in a wheelchair at the time, so she got to use the private White House elevator for the tour. She was escorted by the Secret Service, and she even got to go through the presidential kitchen. I really wish she had been able to take pictures.
And I say,
hey, I have a Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/mattneff to get your name in the thank you credits, along with early access to every FUDW and the chance to vote for future episodes. If there's a movie or show you'd like me to talk about, top-tier patrons can commission a review for my channel. Check out the link in the description to become an FUDW superfan.
And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you could learn to work and play and get along with each other. You got to listen to your heart, listen to the beat, listen